to the Ryen Russillo Show on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app.
It's the Ryen Russillo Show on ESPN Radio. Ryan's out this week. Will Kane sitting in for him throughout the week. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, and all guests on the Russillo Show appear on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. You can get in touch with us. You can get in touch with me through our 1AntFlowers.com Twitter feed. Here it is, at Will Kane, WILCAIN. We have a lot of things I want to talk to you about today. I mean, the list of things I was writing down that I want to sit in a room by myself and talk to you about today has no end. I want to talk to you about the fact that I think Jamal Adams is a modern-day gladiator and shouldn't have to apologize for it to anyone. I want to talk about the New England Patriot way and who embodies the perfect New England Patriot, and whether or not Rob Ninkovich's hair lives up to that billing. But first, I want to talk to you honestly about something that I think is the scariest thing in the world. At least for me it is. Okay, let me just paint the picture for you. It's 2003. It's the National League Championship Series, Game 6. The Chicago Cubs are down 3-0. And then this happens.
If I had a perfect place to die, I would die on the field.
Fly ball down the left field line. Heading over near the wall in foul territory is Alou. He jumps and a fan took it away from him. And Alou is livid. The ball was clearly in the seats. So no interference on the fan is going to be ruled. But Moises Alou jumped and reached his glove into the seats and looked like he might catch that ball. But a fan reached up and took it right out of his glove.
That's the famous call from me on ESPN Radio from Dan Schulman. That, of course, is Steve Bartman. Not reaching into the field of play, but reaching in front of Moises Alou's outstretched glove as he leaps for the ball to make it out. Of course, everybody knows what happens from that point forward. If you don't, you can watch the amazing For 30 for 30 documentary, Catching Hell, on what becomes of Steve Bartman's life after that. Well, the Chicago Cubs have attempted to make some steps towards amends today. The Chicago Cubs are presenting Steve Bartman with a championship ring, a 2016 World Series championship ring that team earned last year. The club has said, while no gesture can fully lift the public burden that he has endured for more than a decade, we felt it was important for Steve and that he knows he has been and continues to fully be embraced by this organization. I got to tell you, for me, this is a Band-Aid on a cut throat. It's too little, too late, completely incapable of making up for what has happened to Steve Bartman's life. Now, let me just tell you why I believe this. Granted, we all have these things in our lives that are, whatever it is, our biggest fears, if given the choice, this is the way I don't want to die, right? So, Cerruti, for me, I mean, the thing I think I'm most afraid of in life is a mob. What's your biggest fear, Cerruti?
It's a good question.
No, heights,
It's
drowning.
not heights. You know what? I don't have any fears, Will.
Get out of here. You're just on the spot, right?
I have no idea, yeah.
You know your greatest fear, Smallman?
I'm afraid of almost everything. I watch way too much Dateline, so.
There's not one, though, that sticks out. Kat, greatest fear?
Heights.
Heights?
Definitely heights, yeah. I can't even get on a step ladder without just start shaking, and I have to get off of it.
I'm not making this up. Mine is the mob. Like, when you see that documentary, Catching Hell, and you see a sea of people in those outfield stands turn and literally start looking and then yelling and then jeering at Steve Bartman, and then the security and police have to come and escort this man out of the stadium, that embodies everything I am absolutely terrified of. And I don't know why. I don't know why this is my greatest fear. I think has probably something to do with powerlessness, like, I don't know, a large gathering of mindlessness armed with either literal or metaphorical pitchforks who cannot be swayed, cannot be reasoned with, cannot be persuaded, absolutely moving towards some often violent end. I mean, they made a movie about it essentially in 12 Angry Men. It's like, what happens when, like, the room is convinced of one way? And that one way is so clearly wrong. I don't know, man. That is like, that to me rings every bit of power. And maybe it's because I put so much weight in like debate and persuasion and these things that I really, really do enjoy and put value on. And that just wrings all of it out of it. Just reduces everything to like guttural, instinctual, group think and movement. That's what happened to Steve Bartman. And it is absolutely and utterly terrifying to me. And it's not theoretical with this guy. Look what happened to his life. I don't know how he ever makes amends. By the way, this was Frank Isola last night on PTI. He said the same thing. Like, this is never over for Steve Bartman.
Classy move by the Cubs, classier move by Bartman to accept this because
great move by Tom Ricketts, the owner. This has his
and you were in the video. I mean, you were in the 30 for 30.
I was.
Okay, the Cub fans did not come across well in that. That's people taking it way too seriously.
It was like 8 years ago. It was
his life that everyone was threatening. This guy had to basically go. You know, he had to disappear.
Yes, he did.
A ring does that. A ring means everything's okay.
But everybody always said, and I believe this. God, let them win so this will be over.
Yeah.
They won.
They threatened to beat the guy up that night.
That was years ago.
If he shows up at Wrigley right now,
I'm going to give him my seat.
That's you.
Everybody's going to give him a seat. It's over, Frank. It's over.
I don't believe it is.
It's long over.
I don't think he believes it is. He's telling people in his statement.
There.
He's telling people in the statement, by the way, please leave me alone.
People aren't going to bother him. They're going to stand and cheer him.
I don't think so, Wilbon. I mean, over for who? Over for Cubs fans? Over for the Cubs organization? They're done feeling guilty? Who is it over for? Because I'll guarantee you this. It's not over for Steve Bartman. How old was Steve Bartman when that happened in 2003, I wonder? When he walked into that stadium in 2003, he was a markedly different human being than the one that walked out later that night. And it never stopped for him. The change, the influences, the feeling of having everyone in the world, or at least in some world you very, very much cared about. The guy's a Cubs fan. He was a diehard Cubs fan who lived in the Chicago area. His entire world turned against him. He was 26 when that happened. Think the guy he was at 26 is the same guy he is today? I mean, you can say that about anybody, right? But if you could pinpoint one incident in his life and say, yep, that's when everything changed, you think that's it. For Bartman, I'm sure there's been other things in his life just as important. But I mean, I guess, and I'm probably personalizing this entirely too much. I think it does explain, why I have taken some positions that I know that I will end up being in the minority on, that I know will end up being somewhat unpopular, be it on Greg Hardy or Ray Rice or Zeke Elliott. But the accusations of the mob is just terrifying to me. There's nothing you can do. You just can't hold your hand. Whoa, guys, whoa! Just give me a sec to explain. Can I just explain for 1 second? There's no opportunity for that. That's over. It doesn't even matter if Steve Bartman was right or wrong. Didn't deserve it. Cubs lost that game to 8-3. They lost it for a lot of reasons. They went on to lose Game 7, and that's not because of Steve Bartman. And I understand that, by the way. I'm a Texas Rangers fan. I know what it is to be one strike away twice in Game 6. I understand what it means to look back at one particular play when Nelson Cruz can't make a catch in the outfield. I understand how that changes everything going forward. And a team can't rebound in Game 7, and they're emotionally crushed. But the point is this. There are many opportunities for a team to rebound. If you really, really think about it, that's the point. That is intestinal fortitude. That's what being mentally tough is. It's not one moment. Steve Bartman was classy. He said this, although I do not consider myself worthy of such an honor, I am deeply moved and sincerely grateful to receive an official Chicago Cubs 2016 World Series championship ring. I'm fully aware of the historical significance and appreciate the symbolism this ring represents on multiple levels. And he went on to ask the media to honor his privacy. He still wants to stay out of this. He does not want the attention. And to me, he's a lesson for all of us on this is us at some of our worst. I'm not even going to indict Cubs fans because times move on, people have regrets, people make mistakes. But God forbid it's ever you in that seat. God forbid it's you that the mob turns against. God forbid it's you that 12 angry men can't be convinced to slow down and take a look at the evidence on. God forbid it's you that gets accused. That's when you develop empathy. And Steve Bartman is my greatest fear. I think Jamal Adams was incredibly honest yesterday when he said that he would be happy to die on a football field. I don't think he was just honest. This is what we want of football players. So why are we now turning around the next day and saying he was at very least insensitive and at worst stupid? He wasn't. He did exactly what we would ask our football players to do. He has exactly the mindset that we would ask of our football players. You can give me a call throughout the show. It's 888-729-3776. It's 888-SAY-ESPN. Hit me up on Twitter at Will Kane. It's Will Kane filling in for Ryen Russillo on the Ryen Russillo Show on ESPN Radio. It's the Ryen Russillo Show on ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance. Will Kane sitting in for Ryan today. Here's some of the feedback I'm getting on the WayneHartFlowers.com Twitter feed. Listen to this. This is Cole Nixon. He thinks it's a little tacky to give Bartman a ring. It's as if they're saying, oh, we won, guess we can forgive you now. Is it tacky? You think it's tacky? I just think it's not enough. I'm not going to criticize them for doing it. I mean, something. It's just you can't repair it. I mean, this Humpty Dumpty can't be put back together again. You can't give this guy his life, his identity back. Tom Williams, bravo on your take on the mob mentality. I agree with you 100%. You most often get on my nerves, but you're not stupid. Thanks, Tom. And here's Hutch. We finally agree on something regarding Bartman. It's never over for that poor guy. I'm glad we finally agree, even if I get on you guys' nerves. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. All right, so this is a controversy. Jamal Adams says that he can think of no better place to die than on a football field. And this is a problem? This is somehow tacky or inconsiderate? Not appreciating the full sensitivity of the NFL's problem with CTE? I don't see it's any of those things.
If I had a perfect place to die, I would die on the field. I would be at peace. Literally. I would be at peace. And that's not a lie. Like, it's so much sacrifice that we go through as a team, and just connecting as one and winning ball games. It's nothing like playing the game of football. But, again, I'm all about making the game safer. That's all I can say about it.
I mean, I don't know that it's the perfect place to die. It's not my perfect place to die. Cerruti, what's your perfect place to die?
Probably at a Roma football match.
In the past 5 minutes, you've told me that some of your favorite TV shows are Peaky Blinders, Sherlock, and that you'd like to die at a Roma football match.
You think I'm too Euro.
I think you're trying Euro.
No.
I think it could be hard. Try hard Euro.
Well, I mean,
my favorite shows are on BBC,
game.
And I like Roma a lot, so much I want to die there.
It wouldn't be an NFL game. I'll say that.
Perfect place to die, Smallman.
I wouldn't mind dying in Italy with like a big jug of wine next to me.
At what age?
Super old.
Super old?
Yeah, like 105.
That's another question, by the way. These NFL players, so Jamal Adams gives his life to doing something very, very dangerous, which he will be very, very handsomely rewarded for. He will be compensated at a very high level. Is it crazy to say, hey, was there another NFL player that said this? I'd trade 10 years of my life. I'd trade 10 years at the end of my life for the glory and career that I had in football in my 20s and 30s. You might be able to say that's short-sighted, but come on. We all make these bargains all the time. If I asked you right now, okay, Kat, I see you looking at me. How much money do I need to give you to give me the last 5 years of your life?
$50 million.
$50 million for 5 years?
Yeah, why not? Go as high as I can.
How about $1 million for 1 year?
No.
I mean, now we're just negotiating, right?
Yeah.
50's high. You price those. You're valuing those last 5 years. I mean, I think we all make these bargains from all the time. I think that most, there's a number. Here's the point. There's a number. Yours is high, Kat. I'm not sure mine's even that high. But there's a number for almost everyone. We make these bargains like, I'd trade the last 5 years for X amount of dollars. I'd trade forget it. If you don't think 5 is significant, how about this? How much would you trade the last hour of your life for? How about that, Kat?
$1 million.
$1 million for an hour? This is like bargaining with the devil, right? This is like me. This is me fully inhabiting my full persona here. Now I am the devil buying years off your life. There is a number and there is a time that you would bargain for. And then yet we turn around to NFL players like Jamal Adams and go, how short-sighted, how ridiculous that he would play NFL and not be sympathetic to the potential long-term problems that occur with this. And he's not giving full sensitivity to the people that actually have experienced some of the repercussions for playing football. And I know there are guys. I know there are people that regret it. Not everyone is going to be able to say what Jamal Adams said. Many, many players, I would imagine, some 30, 40 years removed from their NFL career could look back on it and go, wasn't worth it. Wasn't worth it. But not all of them. And this is the spirit we ask of people. The truth of the matter is, Jamal Adams isn't really talking about dying on the football field. He's talking about giving it his all. He's embodying the gladiator spirit that we want from these guys. He's literally saying, or metaphorically saying, I'd lay my life out on the line to win on the football field. Isn't that what we want? What are we asking for? Less violence, more politically correct football, more sensitive football? Yeah, everybody's in on that. By the way, Roger Goodell's sitting next to him the entire time. Roger Goodell's face on the side of the camera, looking at Jamal Adams as he's saying, perfect place to die on the football field. I would love to know the thoughts going through Goodell's mind right as that's being said. 888-729-3776. I mean, do you have a legit criticism of Jamal Adams for what he had to say the other day? I mean, forget criticism. This is what we ask of players. And by the way, there's not even any criticism for the people clapping along. They're just echoing the emotional investment that he is giving them in metaphorical terms about his commitment to football, an inherently violent sport, the way we want it. That's Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Do you have a problem with Jamal Adams' statement? Do you? 888-729-3776. It's Will Kane filling in for Ryen Russillo on ESPN Radio.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
All right, welcome back to the Ryen Russillo Show. Will Kane sitting in for Ryan all this week. And now I'm joined by the SNL Weekend Update guys, Colin Jost and Michael Che. SNL Weekend Update specials air Thursdays, August 10th, 17th, and 24th at 9 Eastern. Guys, so, Colin, you have been on Weekend Update, I believe, since 2014, right?
I think that's right. Which seems like not that long ago, but then it's suddenly a long time ago. Or kind of a long time ago. This is like our fourth year together?
Yeah, man, you're old as hell.
Come on, man.
Look like crap.
That is not true.
But
now, Michael, you're
if they're
nice
only listening now, they're not going to know.
Well, let me help them out with it. Michael, you're a nice-looking guy, so I don't want you to take any offense when I move to this.
Sure.
But Colin, you're entirely too good-looking to be a comedian. Like, this has seriously had to be something you've had to overcome, right?
It's weird that actually does hurt my feelings.
I'm not. My appearance is not in any way, has no way coming up in my life helped me at all. I was a chubby kid. I was not, no time did I ever have like attention from girls, attention from anyone that would want to put me in anything, or it was completely, I grew up completely independent of anything.
Except for now.
I'm barely, come on, I'm just trying to keep it together here.
Barely a 9.5.
Barely a 9.5. If you look around the comedian world, though, I'm serious. This is like, comedians, don't they operate from a place largely of insecurity? I interviewed Jim.
I've got plenty of. I'm constant ball of anxiety, and I really try to hide it all the time. But I'm constantly worried and anxious. But I'm Catholic, so I bury it inside, and it'll just come out on my deathbed when I grab my eldest child and tell them, "Please don't become what I've become."
Oh man, that could have went a different way. That could have went a different Catholic way.
I like to wait for the end, so you don't know what it's like. A great Henry twist at the end.
It's tension you release right there.
The phone boards are lighting up.
But you've been writing for SNL since the early 2000s, right?
2005, yeah.
So is now, this would be my guess, is now the easiest time you've had in your entire SNL career?
No, it's still hard week to week, but it's the least. This was the least stressful year I've had in the last at least 5 years, maybe 6 years, because there was a period of time where I was doing where I was head writer and starting on Update and trying to figure that out, and doing a movie and it was a really, really hard year, and I almost thought it was all gonna break apart and fail, and then now we have a lot of fun doing our job, even though it's still very stressful and hard. And this last year was actually the most fun I've had on my job in probably at least 5 years.
I would think, Michael, that this isn't political. This isn't left, right. But in the past year, the election and the Trump administration has got to have provided the most material you've had in your entire career to come up with bits and skits and lines and weekend updates.
Yeah, you would think. But I don't know that that's necessarily true, because a lot of times with comedy, comedy is best when it's a surprise. And a lot of times, it kind of writes itself in a lot of ways. So it becomes a little bit harder to say something that, after a week's worth of news that hasn't been already covered or that everybody else isn't talking about. You kind of want to start, kind of talking about things that you find interesting as opposed to the things you kind of have to cover again and again and again. It ends up going to the same, especially when it goes to the same destination.
I heard you this morning on Mike and Mike talk about failed pitches. I thought yours was genius, Michael.
I didn't know whether who you're gonna say. It seemed like they both killed.
This is back to the look thing. I didn't mean to insult you. I liked your pitch as
of
well,
course,
Colin.
Of course.
But Michael's was out. I thought you knocked it out of the park. Tell me what that pitch was again.
My pitch was a sketch about the first white guy to boo Jackie Robinson for a baseball play. I don't think that guy gets enough credit because it was
he was colorblind.
He was colorblind, and then the other people were booing him still. They're like, no, but come on, he dropped that. That was a double play.
And that didn't. Why didn't that one fly?
I don't know.
Jackie Robinson's estate sued the show.
Yeah, I don't know. People hate money.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That joke, that bit has layers that are smart, not just funny. At what point does Jackie Robinson get? I didn't mean that as that wasn't a surprising note.
No. I meant it I'm impressed for him.
Yeah, but what point does Jackie Robinson get to be viewed strictly through the prism of baseball? And the answer is probably never.
Never. But I mean, you got to think that there had to be once where it was oh, come on.
But then there were also a lot that weren't because of baseball, and then he was like, "Oh no, it was for the baseball part."
Yeah, sure.
It was for some baseball stuff or something.
I booed Jackie Robinson, but it was only for the baseball. It was only for this one play.
Yeah, it had to be somebody.
Did you have other sports ones that you've done through the years? Did you have any other sports pitches?
Any other sports pitch? I'd have to think about it. What, did you?
I had Lance Armstrong hosted. I pitched him an idea where he would do a public service announcement that those yellow Livestrong bracelets actually caused wrist cancer.
How did he go with it? Did he like it?
He said, dude, there's no way I'm ever doing that to me. He's like, that's my life. And I was like, oh, okay. He
just did Andy Samberg's, mockumentary about.
Oh, he did of the racing.
He did. Yeah,
he's in it.
Toward a Pharmacy, right? What was it? Yeah,
Toward a Pharmacy, I think it was. Which
I'm
is
so excited to see that.
Kind of gutsy of him to do that.
He's making fun of himself. He's talking about being.
He's making fun of himself, but he pissed a lot of people off, didn't he? Can you say that word?
No.
You can say pissed on a lot of people.
No, I know that because about 10 minutes ago it got bleeped out.
Is that true?
Yeah.
So we got it twice now. All right, good. Glad I doubled down.
Yeah, Lance laughed at himself. He did a whole recreation of the Oprah interview where he's like, "Are we sure that that I'm completely shadowed out?"
Well, it's good that he can laugh about it.
I don't. But the thing is, it's like some of the baseball players I don't care at all. They were still the ones who were great are still clearly. If people have issues with Barry Bonds, he's so much better. He was so much better before anything than anyone else that I don't care at all. Okay. It doesn't bother. I'm like, this guy is clearly a great baseball player, and everyone else was doing. All these mediocre guys were getting just to, a pretty good level, and he was even better than them. It's what is he supposed to lose ground to these mediocre players and not do it?
You think he was following mediocre players, or he was leading them down the
I think
path?
It was the culture, and the same with Lance Armstrong. If everyone's doping, are you going to be like, well, I didn't win ever, but I did it the right way? You're like, no, I'm going to do it. If it's if all your entire team is doing it and your doctors are like, it's fine, this is fine, you're like, okay, all right. And then only later you look back and you're like, oh, that wasn't what I was supposed to do.
So in your mind, it doesn't tarnish his legacy whatsoever.
I don't think so. He was the best. All those other guys were also doping and they couldn't beat him. It's like, what does that say about them? They cheated and lost.
Don't let anybody come on here, tweet, call, tell me I'm full of the hot takes.
Wow.
Colin Jost in 5
I'm
minutes.
just saying, give him credit where credit's due.
Okay.
I remember reading the Barry Bonds thing about how the elbow thing he wore was actually more helpful than steroids. It was like the physics of that, letting him just.
Can somebody get into that? The baseball.
It was like
the elbow
about
strap.
how it like just grooved his swing, so it just perfectly he could like, and it actually gave him mass, so that it was getting more impact on the ball, and that actually probably contributed more to his home run total than.
And you say you read that on Breitbart Sports, right?
On ColinJost.com.
You wrote it? Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
read it and wrote it at ColinJost.com for all your sports analysis.
Speaking of politics,
yes.
when you guys walked in here,
your transitions are seamless.
Speaking of seamless, I'm hungry.
That's big. Seamless is a big part of my life.
It is mine too. I don't have a family.
When you guys walked in, you started talking about the South Carolina Gamecocks helmets up there. Have you been to South Carolina? Have you played that city or that state? Michael said he'd been to a college in South Carolina. How hard is comedy to do you think, today, considering, look, Chris Rock, Jerry Seinfeld, I feel like I've heard it from numerous comedians, and I've actually seen guys fail at this already on the political correctness front, on the I am offended front. It seems to me, in my opinion, to be one of the major currencies going, whether or not you're talking about politics or sports or comedy. I'm offended is an ace in the hole for anyone. How hard does it make it to write comedy?
Not.
Why?
Because what happens when someone's offended? They're offended. Fine. Sometimes I'll buy a sandwich and it's not as good as I thought it'd be.
Yeah.
And then that's it. I just had a bad sandwich. That's it. Like, I mean, I don't know what this weird culture that we've embraced of the idea of being offended, where it's like, yeah, okay, you're offended.
What do you want?
So
what do you get
okay,
from it?
and what?
Yeah, but the and what right now seems to be, okay, you can't come to our college campus, or we'll protest you, or you'll get booed, or whatever it may be.
If someone's offended by us, they're not a reasonable person. Like, we're offended. The people we offend, I mean, we're offending ideally people on both sides. And I think if we go around the country and we do shows, like when we go do stand-up, we have people that are conservative and people who are liberal who are in the audiences. And ideally, they're all reasonable people who can see either the flaws or what's funny about both sides.
Like it feels like we ever watch like the daytime TV and the commercial comes on and it's like, have you tripped and fall at the workplace? Well, you could be. That's how I feel about people who are offended by stuff. Like, has someone said the N-word in your general vicinity? Then you could entitled to tweet at them.
By that. Come on.
No, I usually I say the N-word so much that you would certainly dump again. All right. Come on. You can't be offended by it as much as hang around me.
I love the point of view. I wish you luck with that. I hope it always works out.
Thanks
I hope
so
we
much.
move in that direction.
He says it a bunch, too.
Yeah, hey, come on. We'll bleep that out as well.
All right, you guys in here, we just hit the dump button because Colin said the N-word 3 times.
Fact.
And it wasn't no.
SNL's Weekend Update specials air Thursdays, August 10th, 17th, and 24th at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can get Colin on Twitter at Colin Jost. You can get Michael on Instagram at Che Thinks.
Or Seamless.
Or
you can
Seamless,
get
where he'll deliver food. Maybe.
You can find Che on Seamless at, what was your home address again?
You can find me on Uber
give us that
X.
address real quick. What was that?
Just Uber X, man. I'm cruising around and I'll pick you up if you need to go
you got
somewhere.
a Chevy Cruze.
Yeah, I got a PT Cruiser.
All right. I got to get out of here. Do you have any problem with what Jamal Adams had to say about dying on the field? Where do you want to die? 888-729-3776. It's Will Kane in for Ryen Russillo. It's the Ryen Russillo Show on ESPN Radio. Will Kane sitting in for Ryan today. So I was kind of joking with Colin Jost, just now, the Saturday Night Live Weekend Update guys were in studio with us, about how good looking he is. The thing is, you can't come up with many comedians that are good looking. It's like you don't get to have it all. Like, comedy and being funny is a compensation mechanism for attracting females. Christopher Hitchens has a whole bit on this when he got in trouble saying that women aren't funny. His evolutionary theory was that comedy was a way for men to attract women who weren't good looking, right? So make them laugh. That'll help you out. Hitchens went into then extrapolation as to why he said women can't be funny. That's a debate for a different time. I'm not getting into that. That's not what I'm talking about. But what I am saying is this. Not many times do you get to have the full package. Like, you get to be good looking and funny, because it's just not fair. And an audience, I would guess, would be like, look at you, man. I'm not laughing at your stuff. Look at you. I mean, who's Dane Cook? Good looking?
I was just thinking that. I don't know. I wouldn't say that. You don't think of Dane Cook and go, yeah, he's a handsome dude. I'm not saying he's ugly, but it's not the first thing you think of. But then vice versa, there aren't a lot of really handsome dudes that are also very funny.
Who's the best looking comedian you can think of?
Is it Colin?
I told you during the break, like, I didn't want to ask him, but he's the tabloids say he's dating. I didn't want to ask him. I didn't think how that would go.
I think you should have led with it.
I should have led with it?
Yep.
So how's Scarlett? That's the rumor. Scarlett Johansson. Good for him. Bravo. Seems to have it all. Floyd in Dallas, you have been on hold a long time, my man. I appreciate it.
Man, just a fellow Texan here. Wanted to be on your show.
What's going on, Floyd?
Hey, man, so you touched on Steve Bartman, and of course, like you said, I was on hold for a little bit, so I got my time to think about it. But remind me of that player that tried to catch that ball, outfielder.
Moises Alou.
Moises Alou, exactly. So what if Steve Bartman, because of course he's been in hiding for 10 years now or whatever, what if he gave the ball or donated the ball to Moises Alou or even the 2003 team, like, or at least publicly attempted that? I mean, wouldn't that clear his name a little bit? Wouldn't that make him somewhat likable?
Whoa. You think Bartman needs to make an apology
not the ball, the ring.
Oh, so let me get this straight. So Alou would make the presentation to Bartman, you're saying?
No, Bartman would make it to him. He would say, hey, I'm sorry I got in the way. I'm sorry I screwed everything up. Hey, what if I gave you the ring? What if I donated the ring to the team as a symbol? The Cubs hold on to it all along, and he can come out of hiding.
Oh, this is why I was confused.
Somewhat to be a good guy.
Yeah, but look, man, I don't think that he has much more to apologize for. I mean, if you talk about what has been sacrificed at the altar of the Chicago Cubs, I don't know that Steve Bartman needs to lay another item on that altar, man. I mean, he's given the last 14 years of his life of persecution. I mean, what? Geez, I think the apology should go the other way.
I hear you. I'm in the total fanboy on the Steve Bartman boat with you.
So wait a minute. So you're in Dallas. You're a Rangers fan?
Yeah, I'm a Rangers fan, unfortunately. Hey, man, I'm a big Feliz guy. Where did that guy go after all of that? But, yeah, like you said, David Freese, all that, one play.
Yes. So, okay, Neftali Feliz, 2 strikes away, 1 strike away twice, or Nelson Cruz doesn't track down that outfield fly. Have you forgiven both of those guys?
I mean, as a Rangers fan, I've had to deal with a lot. But, I mean,
a big
Feliz guy, like I said, big Nelly guy, sadly, with all the PED use and all that. No. Quick no.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the call, Floyd. I think the apology's got to work the other way. I don't think Steve Bartman has any more he needs to give to that franchise, that fan base, that city. Ari in Illinois. You're on the Ryen Russillo Show with Will Kane. What's up, man?
I just want to say, first of all, that I'm a huge fan, and I watch you all the time, First Take, everything, so I appreciate you taking the time to take my call.
You bet, man.
I just wanted to say, with Jamal Adams, in regards to what he said, I've been a Bears fan my entire life, and I just want to say there's 2 players that come to mind that are even remotely giving it their all. That's Charles Tillman. That's Brian Urlacher. I would have loved to have somebody like him go out there and say that and show how much they care, not only about winning, but about giving their all every time they step out there.
Let me tell you something, Ari. I've been at ESPN now for 2 years. I appreciate the compliment, by the way. So most of the time I've been in one of 2 places. I've been on the set of First Take, or I've been in this studio with Ryen Russillo. And we have what's called car washes. You've probably heard the term thrown around often. We just had one with Michael Che and Colin Jost, SNL Weekend Update guys coming through. Athletes often make the trip through Bristol and do the car wash. You meet these guys. I've met Jarvis Landry, impressive guy. I have met, I can't remember all the names. Okay, Josh McCown, very impressive guy. The most impressive guy in my 2 years that I have been sitting here is Jamal Adams. Absolutely the number one most impressive guy. Guys, did I hear Ryan say that he said Adams is 2 for him, right?
Yep. Number 1 was De'Aaron Fox.
De'Aaron Fox, most impressive guy to come through.
And they were only a couple months apart too.
Yeah, I'm telling you, this guy. I don't. Speaking of people that don't need to apologize, I I don't think Jamal Adams has anything he needs to apologize for. 888-729-3776, taking your calls on Steve Bartman, on Jamal Adams. Coming up, fascinating prediction about where the next NBA super team will come from. Will it come free agency, draft, the trade? Will be the models of the Celtics in 10, Celtics in 08, Heat in 10, or Warriors now. Straight ahead, Will Kane on the Ryen Russillo Show.
Welcome to the Ryen Russillo Show on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app.
It's the Ryen Russillo Show on ESPN Radio. Will Kane sitting in for Ryan. You can hit me up on the 100flowers.com Twitter feed. I'm at Will Kane, WILLCAIN. You can call the show whenever you want, 888-729-3776. We can go back and forth, debate. We don't have to debate. We can just talk. The Ryen Russillo Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Now you can test drive Snapshot even if you have insurance with another company. See how much you can save before you switch. All right, I want to ask you a question. I'll ask you, Cerruti, you sitting in your car or at your desk at work. If you're making bets right now on the next NBA super team, who will it be? Which team will you put money on is the next? How many super teams are there right now? 2? Golden State Warriors, Cleveland Cavaliers?
There's might just be one. I mean, depending on where he ends up.
Do the Rockets count as a super team now?
No.
Come on.
I think maybe 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, yeah, but not now.
With Paul and Harden? Like what? By the way, okay, what's a super team? Like when you start amassing superstars together on the same roster to attain some level of relevancy and shot at the title?
I think it used to be that, but I think the Warriors are blowing that out of the water. They have 4 stars.
So a super team...
There could really only be one of those, right? Theoretically.
A team with 4 stars?
No, there can really only be one super team, right?
I think the idea of the super team is when a team is capable of cobbling together multiple superstars on the same roster. And as a byproduct of that, they're in the title hunt. I mean, that's what we don't know about the Rockets. They got Paul, they got Harden. No one else qualifies as a superstar. So that might not be enough to be a super team. But Tom Haberstroh has a piece up on ESPN.com right now about who has the best odds to be the next NBA super team. And he offers up 3 models. 3 models on how you can create a super team. One model is the 2011 Heat. Now, this model suggests you accomplish super team status through free agency. That's the team that brought Bosh and James to join Wade in Miami. Now, he says the most likely team to achieve super team status through that model is the Los Angeles Lakers. They'll have $70 million in cap room to add to Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram. That's pretty much it, because the assumption is Julius Randle won't be around to see this super team. That's Model 1, okay, Cerruti? You pick which one you like the best. Model 2, by the way, is the 2008 Boston Celtics, which is to cobble a super team together through trades. That's the team that brought in Kevin Garnett to add to Paul Pierce. And the model for that, they suggest, will be the modern-day Boston Celtics, who have assets that they can trade in the form of picks. They have 2 first-round picks in 2018. They have 2 picks in 2019. They have young guys in Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Jay Crowder's a tradable commodity. That can all be used to add up to a super team through trades. And then finally, the third model is through the draft. This is the Warriors' path. Draft all of these guys. In order to do this, you got to be hitting on guys down in the draft. 2nd round, 19th pick, in the teens or 20s. And the most likely team to follow that path, the Denver Nuggets, where they got Nikola Jokic. What did he come? 2nd round. That's amazing. 2nd round. Whenever I see a team that gets somebody like that in the 2nd round, I am so jealous.
Draymond Green.
Like as a Dallas Mavericks fan, you start, you got to hit on your number 9 pick. You got to hit on your number 5 pick. You make that leap when you hit on that 2nd round pick. That guy down in the draft, like they also did with Gary Harris Jr., the 19th pick, to add to Jamal Murray and signing Paul Millsap in the offseason. Okay, so which one is your most likely? By the way, these aren't the only teams that can follow these paths. There are other teams. But to you, Cerruti, who's the next super team?
Are you asking me which team or which method is the most likely?
Those go one.
I don't think they do, actually.
Explain.
I think the most likely is the Lakers because they're the Lakers. They are a marquee franchise, and everybody wants to play for them theoretically, right? And now that Magic Johnson's there, it's like this whole thing. It's let's go meet in LA and do this thing because most of those guys live there anyway. But I think the easiest way to do it in a vacuum is the way that the Warriors did it. But I don't think that the Nuggets are necessarily that team.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
totally disagree. I think that's the hardest path.
I disagree. There are only the reason I say that the Lakers way, or I should say the 11 Heat way and the Lakers way in this example is the hardest way, is because there are only a certain amount of teams in the league that could actually do that. You're not convincing 3 superstars to go to Minnesota out of the middle of nowhere. Like, they have to be marquee destination free agency places, and that limits the league. There's maybe only 5 spots that could happen.
Okay, so here's where we agree and where we disagree. I agree the most likely next super team, the most likely team to achieve super team status will be the Los Angeles Lakers. They already have Lonzo, who I think Lonzo Ball is going to be a phenomenal player. I think he's going to be the kind of player that other superstars want to play with. I think he makes everyone around him better. I think he's incredibly smart at the game, and it will not surprise me at all. Why would it, by the way? Everybody's saying this. People in the know, like Jalen Rose saying this. LeBron wants to go to L.A. So LeBron, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and X number added free agent superstar because it's $70 million potentially in cap space. That's LeBron and somebody else.
Paul George, Russell Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook and Lonzo on the same team. That's kind of fascinating. Westbrook playing the 2. Yeah. That's the most likely. The other teams mentioned, by the way, to go the free agent route would be the Spurs and the Bulls. It's harder for the Spurs. I don't see how they carve out enough cap space. On the trade, this is the one, on the trade route, this is the only other one that gives me real pause. It's the 76ers. I see you already smiling. Look at this. Markelle Fultz, Ben Simmons, Dario Saric, Joel Embiid, Robert Covington, and $48 million in cap room. It's pretty nice. Pretty nice.
I think that they're almost more in the mold of the Warriors, though. They're the team that got drafted this way. Now, Ryan believes that if he was the Sixers, he would have tried to trade Joel Embiid already.
Well, wow, trade Embiid. Why, injury risk?
Yeah, and he had 35 really, really good games, and he couldn't stay healthy early in his career. He couldn't stay healthy in his quote-unquote rookie year, and he was saying that you should probably cash in on that now because you have no idea what he's going to be.
I assume Haberstroh has the 76ers listed under the Celtics model, the achieve super team status through trade, because these guys aren't going to stay together. Because the 76ers have got to turn some of these young, unproven, and that's really can't be said enough with the 76ers, unproven assets into more proven superstars. I mean, that is the ultimate, legit rebuttal to the Sixers. Can we maybe just see a game or two, maybe a dozen, maybe 20 with these guys together?
Trust the process.
I do trust the process.
So do I.
Makes me mad what's happened to Sam Hinkie. Guy should be in the NBA right now. Look what he did. But to me, and this is where I think you're wrong, the least likely path is the Warriors' path, because whether or not it's the Nuggets or the Bucks, teams that have drafted well so far, it requires you to essentially strike gold so many times. 2, 3, 4 times, finding guys down in the teens and 20s and second round of the draft. That's the hardest. I mean, we would just have more examples than the Warriors of teams that have been able to pull it off.
Well, the Thunder drafted Harden, Westbrook, and Durant all in consecutive years.
Where were they drafting on all those guys?
Like what order in the lottery?
Yeah, those were top 10 picks.
Right. Westbrook was 4, Harden was 3, and Durant was 2.
Yeah, that's the exception is being able to, 76ers did this. Pick that high every year and hit on it. The Warriors were hitting down in the teens and 20s, the way the Nuggets have. I just think that's an incredibly hard path.
But all 30 teams have the opportunity to do that. Not all 30 teams have the opportunity to sign 3 free agents like the Lakers want to or like the Heat did. And there's also one team we're not mentioning here that wasn't on this list at all, and that's the T-Wolves.
That's trades.
It's a little bit of everything.
It is
that's drafting, that's trading. It's
Wiggins,
actually 2 trades.
Butler, trades. Towns, drafting. I think everybody's a little early on the Wolves as well. Little early on that. All right, I also want to talk about, while we're doing this NBA thing, can we just talk for a minute? I'm on Team Daryl Morey. Morey versus Blake Griffin. This is what exploded the internet yesterday because Blake Griffin came really hard. He really bodied Daryl Morey yesterday. Accused him of participation trophy kind of guy. I'm actually on Morey's side. That's straight ahead. It's Will Kane in for Ryen Russillo on ESPN Radio. It's the Ryen Russillo Show on ESPN Radio. Will Kane sitting in for Ryan this week. You can tweet the show at Russillo Show on the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Nothing makes a summer birthday or anniversary more magical than 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you'll get another dozen absolutely free. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Just discussing what's the most likely path. What team is the most likely to make the leap into NBA super team status? And Cerruti and I both agree that it's the Lakers. That's got to be the next team to make the leap into superstar status. Javier in the Bronx. You're on the Ryen Russillo Show with Will Kane. What's up, Javier? Who's going to make the leap?
Well, you guys are probably on to the right team with the Lakers, but the reason I'm calling it is I'm a little disappointed in that how you're a pretty sharp guy. I've seen you on First Take. You tend to make really good points. But and none of the other sports analysts are talking about how the super team is actually maybe cheapening the NBA championship.
Wait. So you're disappointed I'm saying what? What are you disappointed in?
I'm disappointed that no one's covering that angle as to how the super team is actually cheapening the NBA championship. It's making it almost like a meaningless thing.
Javier, where you been? Everybody's talking about that.
Let me just say one.
Everyone's talking about that, man.
Nah, but you guys, I don't know. It's like you're not giving it the appropriate spin because at the end of the day, like no one's mentioned the fact that like Kevin Durant just won a championship. He didn't even cry. He displayed almost no emotion when he did win that championship.
You need tears?
I need tears. I definitely need tears because it shows me you care about making that accomplishment.
You think it was too easy for him?
And that's exactly why he didn't cry. It was way too easy. He knows deep down it wasn't earned.
Okay, so I just want to sum up your call here. Will you stick with me here? I want to make sure I got everything down. So point number one, nobody's talking about these super teams and them killing the NBA. Point number two, I give you as evidence, Kevin Durant seems to have chosen a really easy path to an NBA championship. And point number three, the evidence is he didn't cry. Is that fair? Summation of what you had to say?
Pretty much. And I know, that wasn't the topics per se. But,
No, that's not, Javier, that's not what I'm coming at you about. What I'm coming at you about is you've got to be kidding me, man, on point number 1 and 2. You haven't been able to avoid sports media where they're not talking about the fact that super teams are hurting the NBA and Kevin Durant took a shortcut to an NBA title. You couldn't go 2 days. You couldn't go 15 minutes on sports radio without hearing those things. Now, you wanting tears.
You are right about that, but I mean, like, the emotion. No one's talking about that lack of emotion. Like, think about it like this. When LeBron won with Miami, he didn't display that emotion because he knew even then that it wasn't earned. But when he won it with Cleveland, the man falls to his knees. He's in tears because it was earned, that it was a tougher road.
What about that whole thing? Like, maybe Durant was being tough. Maybe he's like a tough guy. Maybe he's like, he's not giving.
Far from a tough guy. We all know that.
All right, Javier, I appreciate the call, man. Thanks. I don't know. I don't think that his lack of tears. I hear you on 1. I hear you on 2. I can't hear you on 3. By the way, on number 1, the answer to super teams is more super teams. The problem with having a super team or 2 in the NBA is that it becomes predictable. So what's the answer to that? It's more super teams. It's 4, 5 super teams. It's what's happened in Houston. By the way, one time I was them signing Chris Paul to add to James Harden. By the way, speaking of Houston, so you see this Daryl Morey does not like, awards, NBA awards. He says this. I don't know if this is a good process, talking about how they select MVPs. He told this to SI.com's The Crossover. I honestly don't think there's a good process. You could argue for eliminating the awards altogether. This is Daryl Morey speaking. I don't really see a good way to do it that doesn't have major issues. I like clean answers. If there's not going to be a set criteria and there's going to be issues with how it's structured, for me, it might be better not to have it at all. Now, what Daryl Morey really is pointing out is he's mad that James Harden didn't win in 2015 and he didn't win in 2016. And he was given different reasons each year for why that is. He was bodied up by Blake Griffin last night on Twitter. Blake Griffin went at Daryl Morey. He tweeted this. Honestly, we should just do away with championships too. Seems dumb to me. Participation trophies for everybody. Don't at me. Blake. He's got his fat new contract, right, in L.A.? Guess we can strike. He doesn't see the need to go to Houston anymore. I don't need to keep this team on my list of. Blake's gone, though. Wrong, though, man. He's wrong. Morey's not advocating for participation trophies. What he's saying is your criteria is bunk. One year you told me the reason Steph beat James Harden in the MVP race is because he had more wins. The next year you tell me the wins don't matter when you vote for Russell Westbrook over James Harden. He's like, I don't understand. How do I win? You're giving me different reasons every year.
But isn't that the same thing as like the college football playoff? And it's better that way. There shouldn't be a set criteria. You should just know it when you see it. And you knew that Steph Curry, that year he won over James Harden, was the MVP, and it made more sense because the wins was a tiebreaker. The Warriors had way more wins than the Rockets. They were a way better team. Last year, Russell Westbrook did something that hasn't been done since Oscar Robertson did it in 30-some-odd years. I'm sorry. Someone's going to have to lose in the MVP conversation. It doesn't have to be written out as hey, if you get to 50 wins or you get to 60 wins, you automatically get the MVP. That's ridiculous.
He likes clean answers, Cerruti.
But that's not realistic.
He likes clean answers.
You think that there should be some sort of criteria for the MVP?
No.
You should check off the most boxes.
I don't like your answer. It's just like, you know it when you see it. I feel it. It's subjective. Don't at me, bro. I know what I see. But I also know you're right. Yes, there's not a formula you can plug in and say this one spits out the MVP. Wins plus points per game plus triple-doubles equals MVP. You can't. Oh, let's not forget PER and some advanced metrics as well. No, there's not a formula. Yes, I agree. But I also get his frustration a little bit. I mean, the God's honest truth is James Harden shouldn't have won the MVP either year. Right?
Couldn't agree more. He's a great offensive player.
But he's not advocating for participation trophies. Morey's not advocating, right? We can also come at Blake Griffin here and say, Blake, I'd be so mad if I was Morey. What are you talking about, twisting my words like that? I'm never signing that guy. All right, straight ahead, Field Yates is going to jump in studio. We got to talk about the Denver Broncos quarterback situation and something I got into this morning on Twitter at Will Kane. Zeke versus Le'Veon versus David Johnson. Are you sure about your anti-Zeke arguments? Because I'm not so sure. It's Will Kane in for Ryen Russillo on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
It's the Ryen Russillo Show on ESPN Radio. Will Kane in for Ryen Russillo this week. I'm joined now in studio by NFL insider Field Yates. So, Field, look, I'm fascinated by the Broncos quarterbacking situation. What is going on here? Has John Elway just flipped over his cards and realized he has high card 9? Has he got nothing?
This is the truest quarterback competition, in my estimation, in the NFL this preseason. You've got Trevor Siemian, who is the steady incumbent hand, right? Maybe not as much upside as Paxton Lynch, but for now, if what you want to do this year is play outstanding defense and run the football more effectively and not turn the ball over, that's Trevor Siemian, right? He is a guy that you kind of know what you're getting. But you don't trade up in the first round to take a player in Paxton Lynch with the intention of sitting him multiple years. Sooner rather than later, you need your first-round picks to play. They are, in some ways, the lifeline of your draft each and every year. Harder to find good players as you move further away from pick 1. But Paxton Lynch last year I wouldn't say was great in his couple of starts that he made, and he's got to earn the job. And with a new coaching staff, I would say there's less of an allegiance towards Paxton Lynch. All things being equal, though, he still offers more upside to Denver when he becomes the starter.
But what if they already realize that Paxton Lynch has nothing? You point out the new coaching staff, and I realize this is somewhat taken out of context, but we heard Vance Joseph say he didn't like what he was seeing from either of these guys. Now, whether or not those comments were relegated to one day of training camp or what he's seeing overall, I guess can be a matter of some question. But what if they already know Paxton Lynch is a guy who doesn't have it?
Oh, then it's a problem, right? And that applies to any team with any first-round pick. If a year and not even 1 week of training camp in, you already know the guy is not a sufficient NFL player.
Would that be out of the norm, by the way, Field? You've been in a front office.
Absolutely.
Meaning you think it's premature a year and change in to know. You think you do not know.
It's pretty rare because, as often said by NFL evaluators and coaches, et cetera, is the biggest leap for a player can be between year 1 and year 2. It's the first time he's had a full off season under his belt. He knows his bearings a little bit more. And yes, there's a new coaching staff, but you have a feel for NFL offenses and NFL defenses for that matter. So I think it's pretty rare for a team to know after just one season, hey, there's no value for this player, or this player is a complete waste of a pick. It happens. Sure, it happens. And certainly you have your inklings. But I think to be cutting bait on your promise or your progress for a player after just 1 year and 1 week of training camp, that is very, very much an exception rather than the rule.
So if we looked across the league, would you feel that right now, whether or not they see, the thing is recognizing it and admitting it to yourself are two different things.
Completely agree.
So do you think, literally, the Rams have no idea if they have something with Jared Goff at this point?
Well, so here's what I would say about the Rams and Jared Goff last year, is that was about as abysmal of circumstances as a rookie quarterback could enter into for the 7 starts that he made for the LA Rams last year. Pathetic offensive line. The running game became non-existent as a result of that. The pass-catching group was not particularly strong, and a coaching staff that was sort of a hodgepodge compared to what he has at his behind him now. Sean McVay has great offensive acumen. His offensive staff is sort of a seasoned mix of men who've also been offensive coordinators, some young upstart coaches himself. The offensive line improved dramatically this offseason, and the pass-catching group should be better. I'm not saying that Jared Goff is going to be a superstar quarterback. That's certainly still a major question mark. But he is in such a better position to succeed than he was last year that I'm surprised by how many people have already written off a player that, by most people's estimations, was the best quarterback in last year's draft before it took place.
So we covered some of this ground yesterday with Louis Riddick. I'm just fascinated, Field, by the question of when do you know? When do you know if you've got something, or in the alternative, when do you know you have absolutely nothing? Because I think those are actually two different things as well. Louis said you can know pretty quick if you've got absolutely nothing.
Right.
And that would be what the guy has between his ears. Can he make the right decisions on the field? Not on the whiteboard, because everybody can do that on the grease board before the draft.
Yep.
But whether or not when the bullets are being fired at you, whether or not you can still get it mentally. And so I look around and I go, I got to think the Rams know something about Goff. I got to think the Broncos know something about Lynch.
Yep.
And dear Lord, the Jags have to know something about Blake Bortles.
Oh, certainly the water's under the bridge with Blake Bortles in Jacksonville. If you think he's going to become what's the expression? You can't change a leopard's spots, right? I don't think that Blake Bortles is going to all of a sudden pivot and become this high-level NFL quarterback. That's my estimation.
What is he?
3 pro seasons.
What is he, a backup? He's a
backup.
He's a backup.
That's it. He's a backup, and he's a below-average quarterback right now in the NFL. I mean, there was a point in his career where he had thrown more pick sixes than the team had won with him as a starting quarterback. I think it was 12-11 at one point. That is embarrassing right there. So going back to Goff and Lynch here for a second, Lewis is right, and you find that point out pretty quickly of whether you know or you don't know. I just think that if the Rams are saying, based off of all the circumstances surrounding Jared Goff last year, that they know, he's not the answer, that would be a major surprise to me. They would concede internally, even those that have been on that staff for more than a year, as in not part of Sean McVay's new staff. They know last year was a train wreck situation for him. So I don't think that either one of Denver or LA is ready to cut bait on a player that they need to be good.
And wasn't Fisher saying pretty quickly, though, this wasn't my pick, this wasn't the guy I wanted? Now, you can put that into
Maybe
context
there's some football
of
politics involved, right?
Well, tell me, what do you mean? Like dead man walking, looking for excuses, that kind of thing comes from Fisher?
You wonder if that's sort of survival mode when you sort of can see the writing on the wall that I'm probably out at the end of the season. Now, it turned out to be much earlier than the end of the season. But yeah, I mean, in the NFL, there are a few things that are universal in success, but I can tell you that head coach and general manager harmony are pretty much universal in success. So when the head coach or GM is publicly chiding the other one, whether it's passive-aggressively or directly, that right there tells you what you need to know about whether there's sustained success available or capable within that organization.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you this. I tweeted this out this morning. I keep hearing this. You know, I've had the debates about this on First Take, that Ezekiel Elliott's hole in his game, the reason we shouldn't be comparing him to Le'Veon Bell or David Johnson is that he just doesn't catch passes out of the backfield like those two guys. Now, I'm very aware that I'm a homer, that I'm a huge Dallas Cowboys fan.
Put that out there, right?
But the flip side of being a homer is that you're very, very attuned. You're watching training camp videos. You're seeing, you know what the team has and what they can do. And I know this. The Cowboys, coming out of Ohio State, that was one of the qualities that was lauded about Ezekiel Elliott, that he could catch passes like no other running back. To me, it's just a matter of whether or not the Cowboys have chosen to throw the ball to him, and it seems to be they're changing their mode this year in training camp. Can Ezekiel Elliott be the pass catcher Bell and Johnson are?
I think he's got a shot. He's certainly got a shot. I don't think that his skill set, if it's a notch below either one of them, that notch is a teeny tiny one, right? But the difference is what you referenced. We have seen situations where Pittsburgh has literally used Le'Veon Bell in a similar formation that you might see Mike Evans in Tampa Bay in, right? Aligned in a certain specific way that is designated as a receiver. For Dallas, one of the rare teams that can sort of play under center and, you know, in the dot with the running back, which is behind the quarterback, like they sort of did what they did last year, and they did it so well that they had no reason to change. Could we see an evolved game from Zeke this year? Sure, it could happen. Yeah, and when he came out of Ohio State, part of the reason why we reintroduced the idea of a running back being taken in the top 5 was because he was a no-holes prospect. There was no holes in his game. Not only was he a capable runner, he was a capable pass catcher. Heck, he was even being supported because he was such a good pass blocker, right? I mean, like, that's something that we rarely talk about for top prospects, but it certainly matters when it comes to running back evaluations. The gap between Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, and Zeke Elliott, if there is one, it's a piece of sand large. That's how tiny it is.
Okay, last question. Twist this a little bit. I know you have the fantasy podcast. You also do fantasy. You have the top pick, or let's say a top 3 pick in the draft, your fantasy draft. You're going to take one of those 3 running backs. Let's say you have the opportunity, whatever it is. Bell, Johnson, Zeke, for fantasy purposes. You go in what order?
I go in that exact order right there. Bell, Johnson, and then Zeke Elliott, and here's the reason why. Zeke might be suspended. I mean, as a matter of fact, it seems like it's now a matter of when, not if, we see a suspension for Zeke Elliott. And if he was on the field for 16 games, you can make the case for any of those guys at number 1. To me, it's Bell, and then Johnson, and then Zeke because of the suspension. The difference between Bell and Johnson is simply I have more faith in that Pittsburgh Steelers offense staying really good all season, even though a rather pedestrian Arizona offense by their own standards still couldn't stop David Johnson from being the menace that he was last year. This is like picking between your children. There is no wrong answer between Bell and Johnson when it comes to the number 1 running back in fantasy before this season.
All right, thanks, Field.
Thanks, bud.
That's Field Yates, brought to you by DraftKings. Try daily fantasy for free at DraftKings. Use the code GRIT, G-R-I-T, now at DraftKings.com. Okay, coming up, I talked to you earlier about being afraid of the mob. It's my number 1 fear, being afraid of the mob, as embodied by Steve Bartman. What it means to be accused, not having a chance to defend yourself, either against a mob or even against, let's say, a Title IX office at a college. That's what happened to the USC kicker. He's been removed from his team for domestic violence, even though the alleged victim says it didn't happen. Straight ahead, Will Kane in for Ryen Russillo on ESPN Radio. You're not going to believe this story. This is, or maybe you will. Maybe this is getting all the more common. You should believe it. This is the Ryen Russillo Show. Will Kane sitting in for Ryen Russillo this week. The Ryen Russillo Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. More independent agents sell Progressive Insurance than any other brand. Find an agent at Progressive.com. Now that's Progressive. You're not going to believe this. I can't. I saw this morning. All right. I told you at the beginning of the show that I think my greatest fear, I'm lining them up. You know, people have fears of heights, people have fears of drowning, people have fears of different things. They seem to get kind of the ones they really hold on to and latch on to. My greatest fear is the mob. It's an unthinking, unpersuadable, unreasonable, conclusion-driven group of people with pitchforks determined to act out whatever conclusion they've arrived at. And for me, I would imagine if I'm trying to do armchair analysis on myself, it's like, okay, that's because it neuters the one thing you figure, you put value on, like persuasion, reason, logic, debate. The unthinking, conclusion-driven mob doesn't want to hear anything about this. But here's the thing. This is not relegated to mobs. And this has painted my position so many times on things like Greg Hardy or Ray Rice or Zeke Elliott. It's like accusations and conclusions coming from mobs or from whoever aren't enough. But sometimes they're not even necessary. Rumor will get it done. USC kicker Matt Bormeister, the guy who kicked the game-winning field goal for USC in the Rose Bowl last year, he's been suspended from USC. He's been barred from the campus and from meeting with USC's athletic trainers or members of the football team. Why? Why is Bormeister suspended and exiled from USC's campus and football team? Because of a Title IX investigation into a night with his girlfriend. The night goes down like this. A neighbor witnessed, this is according to the Los Angeles Times. I'm reading from the Los Angeles Times here. A neighbor witnessed Bormeister and Katz, his girlfriend. Matt Bormeister's girlfriend. That's Zoe Katz, 22 years old. Roughhousing. The neighbor told his roommate, who told a coach in the USC athletic department that Bormeister was abusing Katz. The coach then reported the incident to the Title IX office. Now, this is what we're wanting coaches to do. You hear something, you report it to the Title IX office. This is definitely in the wake of what happened with Baylor and what Art Browse was specifically accused of, among many other things, not forwarding on things he might or might not know about his team to the Title IX office. This USC coach hears something, which is now painted to him as an abuse that he forwards on to a Title IX office. Now, Bormeister's girlfriend, Zoe Katz, says she was summoned to a mandatory meeting with the Title IX officials where she told investigators the two were just playing around. The Title IX investigators told Katz subsequently, she was told, "You must be afraid of Matt," she said. She told officials she was not afraid of Matt. Bormeister was not arrested, and he was not charged with a crime. Now, this is a quote from Zoe Katz. "When I told the truth about Matt in repeated interrogations, I was stereotyped and was told I must be a battered woman. And that made me feel demeaned and absurdly profiled. I understand that domestic violence is a terrible problem, but in no way does that apply to Matt and me." A neighbor sees these two in the front yard where, according to the victim, in quotation marks, and the USC kicker, they were roughhousing. The neighbor internalizes it differently, tells his roommate. Now we're also playing telephone, by the way. The roommate internalizes that as abuse and tells the USC coaching staff, who then in turn telephone it on to the Title IX office that this is an abuse situation, this is an assault situation, and you need to investigate it. During the investigation, the victim, in quotation marks, says, "No, that's not what happened. We were playing around. He wasn't assaulting me." To which she is then told, No. You just don't know what happened to you. You know what's more trustworthy than your point of view? You know what's more trustworthy than your word? The game of telephone we just played through 3 or 4 different sources that internalized your shove, playing around, whatever you say it was, into an assault. That's what we believe. So I want you to just fully understand where we've gone here. All right? This is the form of due process that's taking place on college campuses right now. It's not innocent until proven guilty, which is the standard that we uphold in our criminal justice system. No, it's not that. And it's not just guilty until proven innocent. It's not just that. It's not now guilty if accused. Now, via the Title IX office of the USC college campus, it is guilty if rumored. Guilty if rumored through a game of telephone. Listen, we have a domestic violence problem. We have to figure out ways to address it. One of the inherent problems with domestic violence is it's he said, she said. But the truth of the matter is, some of the times it breaks both ways, and we have to do our best through investigations to figure out what the truth is. We saw this with Cowboys cornerback Jordan Lewis from University of Michigan. He was just, in what they said amounted to a pillow fight, charges dropped. Prosecution rests their case. Charges dropped. Not true. And it's why I've spent some time with guys like Zeke Elliott or Gary and Conley, who we just saw also had the charges dropped, saying we have to investigate. It doesn't mean these things didn't happen, but we have to spend a little more time giving credence to the evidence, not the accusations or rumors. All right, 888-729-3776. Straight ahead. I want to talk more about Jamal Adams. He didn't need to apologize. Will Kane in for Ryen Russillo on ESPN Radio.
Welcome to the Ryen Russillo Show on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app.
It's the Ryen Russillo Show on ESPN Radio. Will Kane sitting in for Ryan this week. Hit me up on Twitter on the 100flowers.com Twitter feed. I'm at Will Kane, WILLCAIN. Give us a call as well, 888-729-3776. Got two guys lined up right now anyway. Casey in Virginia. I was just talking about what happened at USC with this kicker being suspended and now expelled from school on the basis not of an accusation, because the victim says it didn't happen, but on the telephone game of a rumor of someone who thought they saw something. Matt Bormester's gone. Casey in Virginia.
Hey, what's up, man? First, I just want to say I'm a huge fan of yours. Just keep doing what you're doing, and I really hope it leads to nothing but success.
Thank you.
But I just wanted to say I think it's just another example of the empire that is the NCAA, and it's so ridiculous that there aren't so many more protections in place for these players. I mean, this is just another story in a long line of stories just like this, where, like you said, it's just rumors and stuff like that will just lead to the destruction of somebody's career, you know?
Well, I'm going to push back on you a little bit, Casey, even though you're agreeing with me. But just let me twist this a little bit and think through this. The truth of the matter is, when it comes to these things, whether or not it be domestic violence, sexual assault in general, athletes have the best of it, meaning they have the most protections. This isn't an NCAA issue. This is a Title IX issue. Title IX now has as its standard what's called preponderance of evidence. Everybody heard of that. Everybody heard during Deflategate. That's like, okay, more likely than not. But you know who has a real problem? Athletes have a system working in their favor. They have fame. What was going on at Baylor with some of those guys was not good. But hold on real quick. But the regular student has none of those protections. That's where guilty until proven innocent applies. Guilty if rumored. That's where it's really bad. But I'm just saying, listen, but I don't want to diminish the fact that domestic violence exists and sexual assault exists. These things exist. It's just we have to figure out a way to actually have a fair process to see what really happened.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, like you said, it's a process issue. More than anything, I guess, is a very good point. But anyway, thanks for taking my call, man.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. Paul in New York, you're on with Will Kane, filling in for Ryen Russillo up this week. What's up, Paul?
What's happening, Willpower?
Willpower, that's right, man.
My man.
Do you have smoke? Do you have an image of smoke in your head, like dry ice flying up, all that? That's what goes with willpower, right?
Anytime I see you, it's like you're surrounded by smoke and body slams.
That's right, Paul. All right, what do you got, man?
All right, so I just want to address this whole Steve Bartman championship ring from the Bush League Chicago Cubs organization. I think that it's absolutely irreprehensible that the Chicago Cubs, after 14 years, decide that they're going to give him a replica championship ring. Now, this isn't the kind of championship ring that Rizzo got or Bryant got. It's the same. It's the same ring that they're giving the janitorial staff at Wrigley Park that worked that game. So it's all right, we almost got you murdered by Section 108 for accidentally grabbing a foul ball, which 5 or 6 other people were grabbing for too. And you were the unlucky guy that had to snag it.
And
it's The only way that this situation could actually be like justified or like rectified actually is if when Steve Bartman went into hiding, if he just like hit the weight room, started doing a bunch of push-ups, kind of like Steven Seagal in Hard to Kill, and just working a heavy bag, and then just went back for vigilante justice at like an Illinois State Fair and just had all Chicago Cubs fans line up and just challenge him to a bare-knuckle boxing match. And then you see Steve Bartman behind home plate watching the St. Louis Cardinals beat the Chicago Cubs while standing next to Michelle Smallman and the Marlins, man.
Wow. That's a call, Paul. That's good. That's good. All right.
I'm just saying, this is ridiculous that like people are being like, oh, the Chicago Cubs, that's so sweet and endearing. They're reaching out to Steve Bartman and trying to mend the fences. This is ridiculous. This dude's been in hiding.
Hey.
Hiding.
I don't disagree. There's nothing. Even your awesome scenario that included Michelle Smallman, there's nothing that can make that guy whole again, that can give him the life he had prior to that incident back. But come on, this is where I think it's not bad what they're doing, right? Are you actually insulted by it? What if we acknowledge that there's nothing they could do? Then did we jump to then do nothing? I mean, this is a little something.
I think that what they probably should come out and be like they gave Aaron Judge the judge's jury. Maybe they should give Steve Bartman like a Pope Mobile kind of like dome protected area behind home plate and be like, hey, we're going to roll out the red carpet anytime you're anywhere near Wrigley Field. Like, hey, sorry we almost got you killed 14 years ago. Sorry you've had to completely live in hiding for 14 years. It's like, and then the guy is still, like, if anyone tries to say they're the biggest, I'm a big Ohio State fan. But it's like, if I almost got murdered at an Ohio State game, odds are pretty good that I might start liking Michigan State. Because I could never like Michigan because that's just an atrocity. But like the guy still is a big Cubs fan.
He is.
Like that's dedication.
Is he? Yeah, he's hanging on. You're right. He's hanging. Yeah. Thanks for the call, Paul. Appreciate it. That's just phenomenal call. Just phenomenal. Would you give up your fandom, Cerruti? If your favorite team and your fellow fan base treated you the way they treated Steve Bartman, are you out?
100% I'm out.
Michelle, you out on the Cardinals if that happens to you?
I'm gone.
You gotta be, right? You gotta be. Betrayal.
They threw garbage on him and chased him out of the stadium.
And that, honestly, I know, we all know, isn't the worst of it. What happened to him when he got home, when people tried to track him down, his phone, whatever, the stories he could tell, which he won't tell, which to me is a reflection of how wounded he is. He has no desire to talk about this. Despite Paul's call, he didn't want a Pope Mobile behind home plate. He didn't want to take Chicago Cubs fans one-on-one at the county fair, one after another. He wants to go away. He wants you to leave him alone. Because what happened is so awful. Man. I'm sorry, Steve. I'm not even a Cubs fan. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. All those guests, including Paul, have been on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. Hey, listen to this. So this is making the rounds. It's on NFL Live. You can hear it everywhere. This is Jamal Adams yesterday talking about how important the NFL is to him.
Oh, the New York Yankees. If I had a perfect place to die, I would die on the field. I would be at peace. Literally. I would be at peace. And that's not a lie. Like, it's so much sacrifice that we go through as a team and just connecting as one and winning ball games. It's nothing like playing the game of football. But, again, I'm all about making the game safer. That's all I can say about it.
If there's a perfect place to die, it's on a football field. Jamal Adams said that, by the way, with Roger Goodell sitting right to his left, staring directly at Jamal Adams. What was going through Roger Goodell's mind as he heard one of his star? What was Jamal Adams in the draft? What pick was he like? He was top 5, right? What is he?
6.
He was 6th. The 6th pick in the draft. Somebody I would say has a very high likelihood of being a star. What was going through Roger Goodell's mind?
With all due respect, let's just try to stay with statistics. The average NFL player lives 5 years longer than you, on average. So their lifespan is actually longer and healthier.
Whoa. That's what was going through his mind? Was that what Goodell was thinking? Just one more time.
With all due respect, let's just try to stay with statistics. The average NFL player lives 5 years longer than you, on average. So their lifespan is actually longer and healthier.
I don't know about that one, Roger. I don't know that I would have gone down that path. Jamal, you got nothing to apologize for. You're giving the gladiator spirit that we all want from our players. I disagree, by the way. I don't think the football field is the perfect place to die, but hey, I'm not you, and that's why I'm not going to be an NFL star. My vision is somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, probably, swimming between the islands of Lanai and Maui. Just a nice, simple sinking. That would be, but not on the football field. And I will celebrate you just like those people that clapped. I will not criticize them for being honest and celebrating that gladiator status. But Roger, I want to rethink that whole, hey, you know what? This whole football thing, it's actually good for you. All right, coming up, Rob Ninkovich. Is Rob next? Going to be Rob in here? All right. Who's the most patriot of patriots? Is it Rob Ninkovich? Coming up straight ahead, Will Kane filling in for Ryen Russillo on ESPN Radio. Will Kane in for Ryen Russillo this week, who's on vacation in Italy, and that's a shame for him because now I'm joined in studio by the recently retired New England Patriots linebacker, Rob Ninkovich, who, by the way, just now, what were you doing? You're just checking yourself out in the return camera over there?
Yeah, I look decent right now.
What were you worried about?
Just the back. Because when I look down, if I keep going, I see a little, flesh-colored yarmulke. I don't want that thing to just fully come out. I'm a little scared. So I'll have to, one day, eventually, the front looks good. I'm tall. Nobody can tell. But if I sit down and someone's above me, they're like, hey, Rob, you're getting a little thin up there.
So you think about it when you take a seat?
No, not really. I mean, there's a reason why for the last 10 years I never take my helmet off. I leave it right here so you can just see my face and this, and then that's it.
I asked you a minute ago, if given the choice between, as you said, the island in the back or the peninsula of hair up front.
The power alleys.
Yes, which do you choose? Which do you choose to be afflicted by?
The back. I'll take it. It's happening, so I can deal with it. Dr. Robert Leonard, my guy in Boston, though, if I ever need anything, one day he's going to help me out. So we've had discussions. I've done stuff in the past with him. He's a great guy. He's worked with Welker.
You're talking about reseeding. You're talking about planting the field.
Yeah. I mean, if you're in the farming industry and you plant a seed and it doesn't grow, you're going to replant. You're going to try and get it back. You need the crop. You know what I'm saying?
I like the honesty. You're going to fight this every step of the way.
Well, my dad didn't fight anything, and he's just gone. The whole thing, shiny, cue ball. I have the head shaped like an alien. So, if you see any, alien movies, they're never just a nice, smooth head. They have, a weird bone or, a weird shape. It's just weird. I found that out at a young age, and I never have had a shaved head since. So, it's traumatic.
All right, now that we got the hair and skull shape worked out, I want to ask you a few football things. First of all, I want you to listen to something. I want you to listen to this from your press conference.
All right.
Matty P, my guy. So me and Matty P have a great relationship. All my teammates in here know that he gets the best out of me, and that's from the first day we met. He knows what to say to piss me off, to get me angry, to play my best football. And thank you for that. I'm indebted to you for that, for always being there for me.
About defensive coordinator Matt Patricia, what does he say to tick you off? How does he motivate you?
I think that Matt is special in coaching. You have to be able to relate to players, and not only just one guy. I mean, there's a bunch of guys in a room, and you have to relate to each guy differently because of background, upbringing, what motivates you. There's different things that get guys going. And
so
some guys are
you
praise.
Mad sounds like
some guys are praise. Some guys want praise. Some guys, if you judge or question, Matty was more of a that wasn't good enough. Even though mentally I'm thinking I thought I did a good job, it's not good enough. You got to be better. That's not what got you here. You got to play your best football. And sometimes in those moments you get angry and I'll show you, one of those things. And then you look back on it and you're like, well, that motivated me and that made me play better. And I made a lot of plays because I was motivated.
to not only be a good football player, but to, make my coaches proud, make my family proud. It's almost like that, your dad, it's almost like that dad thing. Like my dad, I don't want to let my dad down. It's like my coaches, I don't want to let my coaches down because they're putting me on the field to do a job that they trust me with.
But I'm genuinely curious, what would he say? Give me an example of something Patricia would say to you to make you so mad that it motivated you.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Like it's more so like in film. Like if we be watching film and I thought I did a good job on something, and he would just say that's not good enough, and I would personally take that like, what do you want me to do it? Like what, I've said to him like, show me how to do it, and he looks at me like, I can't do that. I'm not a football player. I'm a coach. So it's those things that when you're a coach, you can't go and do it, but you want to explain and show someone the right way to do it. And for me, sometimes I was hard-headed and I didn't want to accept it because I thought I was doing it the right way. But in the end, the coaching and all the things that he was trying to help me with put me to a place where I was not only helping the team win, but also, sticking around a great organization. Like there's a lot of guys that they play good football, but if they're not doing exactly what is asked of them, then they're not going to stick around. So for me, I try to do the best I could for my coaches and the New England Patriots because I love playing for the New England Patriots. It's over. So for me, it's like it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment to try and move past that mentally because as a football player, you've always like taught yourself like it's a new year. But now I was like, okay, it's time. My body's telling me, be smart. Don't be one of those guys that tries to hang on when they look like they shouldn't be out there anymore.
When you just now corrected yourself to past tense, loved being a New England Patriot, I mean, I can almost hear the emotion in your voice again. I want to play another clip for you, and I want to paint this picture. Here you are at your press conference announcing your retirement.
Coach, I gave you everything I had, and I hope it was enough. And I love this game. Thank you. And hopefully my playing career has taught me a lot. And playing for you, I've learned a tremendous amount. And I hope I can take that knowledge that you've given me over the years. And if I'm coaching or in football or doing something, that I could use all that knowledge you gave me and pass it on to the next group of guys. So thank you.
I mean, the emotion in your voice there is obvious.
Yep.
It's undeniable. Here's my question for you. Have you ever seen that kind of emotion from Bill Belichick?
I didn't think he liked me that much. Like Bill's the best coach, hands down, of all time. He's the smartest coach I've ever been around. He knows all phases of the game, and he'll tell us, "I'm not going to compliment you on doing what you're supposed to do." So if I could get that, type of response from him, I was like, wow, like I was proud that I was able to play at a high level for so many years, and he respected that and gave me the credit for, being able to go out there and do it at a high level for a good amount of years back to back to back. So it was hard for me to leave, and all my friends and coaches, and I've built such tremendous relationships with everybody. I have so many close friends on that team, so it was hard. So I was trying to stay together the whole time. I was good, and then when it was to Maddie and Bill, it was just tough because they were the ones that helped me get where I'm at today.
I got to get you out of here because Stephen A. Smith's Bigfoot and me. He's got to get you into his show. But I got to ask you before we go, less than a minute here. What do we have to do to get you on the Derby list? Like, I've seen the pictures. The group is getting – we have a couple mutual friends, by the way, Rob, and I've seen the Derby pictures. It's getting big. It's a dozen. And I have heard firsthand that you're a great dude. Why aren't you on the Derby list yet?
I don't know. Well, I think the last couple of years I have babies at home, so I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. The 1-year-old this year was pretty much the reasoning behind that. I'm not going to say, hey, babe, I'm leaving for 3 days. Where are you going? Oh, the Derby. What are you going to do? Just hang out, hang out with my buddies, place a couple bets.
It's Tom.
Just stand in the stand in the chaos of the middle of the field where everyone's getting crazy in there? I've never been, so I don't know.
I haven't either.
I don't know. So
let's get you in on that.
All right, let's go. Let's go.
All right.
I'm ready.
This
But
guy's
I
a
need
great
the
guy,
invite.
Tommy.
I'm gonna talk to Tom. I'll say, Tom,
Let's do that.
Throw me on the jet. I'll serve you some drinks. Like, we'll be all right.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, thank you.
That's Rob Ninkovich in studio giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. All right, straight ahead, who won the Major League Baseball trade deadline, the Dodgers or the Yankees? You know what I say? The team that wears blue won. The one on the West Coast. Will Kane in for Ryen Russillo on ESPN Radio.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
It's the Ryen Russillo Show on ESPN Radio. Will Kane in for Ryen Russillo this week. You can hit me up on Twitter at Will Kane, WILLCAIN. You can give us a call anytime you want, 888-729-3776. You know, we were just talking to Rob Ninkovich. When I was asking him about the Derby, how do we get you in on the Derby crew? I'm talking about Tom Brady. I assume everybody knows at this point, right? Tom Brady's annual trip to the Kentucky Derby. It's private jets, it's champagne, it's fancy hats, it's white pants, it's everywhere. And it's getting big. Like I said to him, I've seen the pictures, it's like a dozen dudes strong. At some point, it starts to hurt feelings, right? Right? Like if it's 5, you get it. Oh, I'm not in the inner circle. But if it's like 15, why don't I make the cut? It's Julian, right? The reason you didn't make the cut is because of Julian. We know that. Julian's like the gatekeeper. He's the invitation. He controls the invitations. He protects Tom. He's the manager of the relationships. Has anybody called Julian out on these things? Can we get Julian on the phone? Like, can we call Julian and say, hey, why are you so protective of Tommy in your relationship?
That might be the last time you have him on.
Nah, he's a sport. Do you think Ninkovich, Srudy, is the most patriot of patriots?
No, I don't.
But he's
I think
up
there's
there.
one real obvious answer.
Does he work around here?
He does. Friend of the show.
Okay, before let's do this. How many do I have? Top 5 most patriots, right? Here's my top 5. I'm going Rob Ninkovich, 5. Mike Vrabel, 4. Larry Izzo, 3. Special teams. It's Demon, Larry Izzo. Tom Brady, number 2. And then friend of the show, Teddy Brisky, number 1, right?
Seems like there's a common theme there.
What, all white guys?
Yep.
I don't think that's by design, and I don't think it's subconscious. Like, are you saying I'm racist? What are you saying?
Oh, I'm just saying it leans one way.
Is that are you saying I'm racist, or am I saying that New England's racist? What are you doing? I don't understand. You're not just saying, don't give me the I'm just saying.
I'm just
stuff.
saying, Will, I'm just saying there's a clear thing going on here with your top 5 Patriot list.
Would yours look differently? Would you get Vince
Probably
Wilfork
not.
in there?
It probably would look the same.
Why?
Maybe it's a Patriot thing then. I don't know.
Vince Wilfork's close. He's close, right? Michelle, did I leave anybody out?
I don't know. It's a pretty comprehensive list.
Most patriots. Don't worry, Teddy. We all agreed unanimously. You take the cake at number 1. It's not even close. Tom Brady doesn't even come close to Teddy Bruschi on most patriot. All right. Who won the trade deadline yesterday? The New York Yankees or the Los Angeles Dodgers? The Los Angeles Dodgers acquired Yu Darvish yesterday. Job well done by them. Job well done brought to you by Napa Auto Parts with quality parts. And know how Napa Auto Parts can help you keep your ride running longer, stronger. That's Napa know-how. So who won the trade deadline? Pedro Gomez, well-respected analyst and reporter on ESPN yesterday, said this.
Oh, the New York Yankees, without a doubt. And it's not just the Sonny Gray deal. It's also adding those pieces to the bullpen in the Todd Frazier deal from the White Sox.
The New York Yankees. I got to tell you, if given the choice between having Sonny Gray and Yu Darvish, I choose Yu Darvish. For the Yankees or the Dodgers going into a playoff run to have a multiple series World Series title pursuit, I'd just rather have Yu Darvish running out there in a 3 or 4 man rotation. I'd rather have, like, they're both going to be probably the number 2 guy in the rotation. If Kershaw comes back, that puts Yu Darvish second, Wood third, Hill fourth. That's stout. Did you know the Dodgers, by the way, if you guys see it, the Dodgers on a 114-game win pace. They're 43 games over 500 and have a 14-game lead in the division. Jeez! And they add Yu Darvish to that. Now, I'm a Ranger fan, and I am well acquainted with Yu Darvish, and I know what he can be. And that's probably painting this to some extent. But I've seen Sonny Gray as well, and Sonny Gray is great. And the Yankees pulling in Sonny Gray to add to Severino. I guess Gray goes second. Tanaka. Sabathia. That's stout too, but it's not. I don't know. That's a better team than the Houston Astros. But if I'm a Houston Astros fan, I'm less afraid of that Yankees lineup than if I'm a Cubs fan, I am of the Dodgers rotation. That's terrifying. Darvish as your number 2. You know, Darvish got rocked for, 10 innings right before the trade deadline, and everyone's like, what's up with you, Darvish? It blew his ERA up from like 3.5 to 4. You know what it was? He was tipping pitches. That's what the report said over the weekend, that he was tipping pitches. He was pausing before his fastball and going to his glove quickly on anything off speed. By the way, the Rangers and what they got in return, I know nobody cares about the prospects you get in turn for a star, but listen to this. They got this guy, Willie Calhoun. And, of course, since I'm a Rangers fan, I've been reading up to it because he's been described as having the body of an emperor penguin. That kind of got my attention. What? Emperor penguins don't necessarily evoke all-star baseball players. 5'8", 185, with people saying, that's inflated. We're looking at 5'6", 200 type figure. That's amazing. 5'6", 2 bills. Thick. I don't really. They say you can hit, so I'm going to get excited about that, I guess. Maybe he can hit this year. 23 home runs at AAA and might be in the majors this year. But Emperor Penguin? I'll tell you something. If he's good, that will be part of his calling card. I'd rather have Yu Darvish than Sonny Gray. That's where I would go. Pedro Gomez says the biggest loser in the trade deadline?
Astros, and the reason is because they didn't do anything. The Astros are going to wind up with well over 100 wins should they continue. But are they built for 162? Or can they handle the rigors of a 3 out of 5 or a 4 out of 7 series? And right now, let's say they were to match up with the Yankees. On paper, the advantage goes to the Yankees. Wow. The Astros, as good as they've been, you know, that's not a rotation that another club says, whoa, we're in some trouble here.
Either way. Okay, so either way, Yankees, Dodgers, Sonny Gray, Yu Darvish, either way, this is awesome for baseball, right? This is what baseball needs. The Cubs win a World Series after whatever, 100-something odd years to win a World Series, and then the Yankees and Dodgers become the premier teams in not just premier, but the best teams in Major League Baseball. That's exactly what baseball needs. And I think the Dodgers are set up to win it all. All right, straight ahead. What are we doing on Previously On? Going with the Saturday Night Live guys? Yes, Michael Che, Colin Jost, in here. Tell us, what was the best failed pitch you ever had at Saturday Night Live? It's Will Kane, in for Ryen Russillo on ESPN Radio. The Ryen Russillo Show on ESPN Radio. Will Kane filling in for Ryen Russillo this week. Follow me on Twitter, at Will Kane, WILLCAIN. So, we had the SNL Weekend Update guys in here a little bit earlier. Everybody's at them. Car wash around here. But I did ask them about what is the best failed segment pitch you've ever had at Saturday Night Live. And this is what Michael Che said on Previously On.
Previously on the Ryen Russillo Show.
My pitch was a sketch about the first white guy to boo Jackie Robinson for a baseball play. I don't think that guy gets enough credit because it was
he was colorblind.
He was colorblind, and then other people were booing him still. They're like, no, but come on, he dropped that. That was a double play.
And why didn't that one fly?
I don't know.
Jackie Robinson's estate sued the show.
Yeah, I don't know. People hate money.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That joke, that bit has layers that are smart, not just funny. Like, at what point does Jackie Robinson get? I didn't mean that as like that wasn't like a surprising note.
No. I meant it like I'm impressed for him.
Yeah, but what point does Jackie Robinson get to be viewed strictly through the prism of baseball? And the answer is probably never.
Never. But I mean, you got to think that there had to be like once where it was like, oh, come on.
But then there were also a lot that weren't because of baseball, and then he was like, oh no, it was for the baseball part.
Yeah, sure.
It was for some baseball stuff or something.
I booed Jackie Robinson, but it was only for the baseball. It was only for this one play. Bit, I don't know why they didn't do that. That is a good bit. You could go so many different ways with that. Because, I mean, obviously Jackie Robinson was a great baseball player. He was also such a symbol. And then at what point is the symbol overshadowing the actual baseball? And it's like, no. He dropped the pop fly. No, I know why you're booing. No, he dropped the pop fly. No, I know what you're doing. I don't know why they didn't go with that on Saturday Night Live. Hey, did you see what Kevin Durant did on YouTube?
I did. Not a fan.
I kind of like it. We talk so much about how sensitive these guys are. They are. Can I just offer you Exhibit A on how sensitive NBA stars are? Kevin Durant, on his YouTube channel, goes into the comment section where random commenter says, LeBron is better than you, and replies, nah, in AH. Kevin Durant, pushing back on YouTube commenters.
He has nothing else to do.
I don't know.
He's Kevin Durant. Like, that's what I understand. Like, he goes at all these people on Twitter, and like everyone thinks it's hilarious. But it's like you're just sitting around your phone, just tweeting back at these randos. Like, you just want a title. Like, it's so beneath you.
Is it? I do that. I'm not Kevin Durant. I don't have a title.
Yeah, it's different. It's also good for you to go back at people. It's part of your brand.
This guy, I think I've referenced him several times, named Gary Vaynerchuk. He's like a social media guru. He has an ad agency in New York, and I interviewed him once for a television show I had where I had like an hour sit-down interview. Really fascinating guy. Started with a wine business on YouTube where he was selling wine on YouTube videos from his family's wine store. Turned that into like being the wine guy on YouTube when it was in its infancy. Parlayed that into being on Conan O'Brien, into being on The Tonight Show. Parlayed that into learning how to essentially dominate all of these social media mechanisms and becoming an ad agency, helping companies out through social media, right? So I'm sitting there talking to Gary V, goes by Gary V. I'm talking to Gary V, and I'm like, Gary V, I hate Twitter. And he said, you're using it wrong. I hate it, man. It's like, and I don't hate the mentions. I don't hate the ads. I hate the feed. I hate that everyone's got a little pearl of wisdom, myself included sometimes when you do it. It's like, everybody, look at this genius or really, really funny thing I just said or did. It's constant projection, right? Very little, to me, interaction. And he said, you're doing it wrong. Like, you need to start giving. Not like you're taking. Give me attention. You need to give. You need to react. You need to interact with people. One at a time, one by one. That's how you convert people. By giving them respect. Interacting. So, I mean, I tried to take it up, Rudy. That's what I try to do. So when I respond, I spend more time in my ats going, thanks, yeah, whatever, even to the haters often, because I do actually like the engagement.
Do you think that Kevin Durant's more likable because he makes fun of people who go at him on Twitter?
I don't know. Just let me sound this out, okay? I'm just thinking my way through this. Like, in theory, I do want to believe that. He's picking these guys off one at a time, converting them into KD, greater than sign, LeBron, one at a time. One at a time, he's making his case. On the other hand, why do you care, KD?
Michelle and I have talked about this a million times. We both think that he's insecure. And that's all this comes down to. And a lot of it has to do with his decision to go to the Warriors. So when people come at him with that, and he goes back at them, you're like, oh, see, he's still not comfortable with that decision that he made.
He does not like that criticism. I bet that's 100% true. He does not like the criticism that he took a shortcut to the championship through the Warriors. Who's more insecure, as evidenced by their social media? Michelle, yesterday you said LeBron had the social media presence of a 13-year-old girl. Kevin Durant has a take on every hater presence. Which one shows more insecurity?
That's a tough call, but I'm going to go KD. Because LeBron is the one kind of dictating his own narrative, while Kevin Durant should not care what these nobodies are coming at him with, yet he's constantly going back at them.
Who's got it mastered then? I was on Outside the Lines last week, and Jeremy Schaap said, one thing LeBron James has not figured out how to do is break up. Like, look at his series of breakups. First, the decision in Cleveland. Second, what happened in Miami when he left a lot of bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, from Pat Riley to Dwayne Wade. I'm sure Dwayne doesn't hold it against him. And then now back to Cleveland, it's going ugly again. But my answer to him was like, whoa, what's a good breakup? Who's got it mastered? What's the model for a breakup that LeBron should be following? So what's the model for social media? What athlete has that nailed? I take your silence as no answer.
It's tough to, be
or
the
lack
best
of
at
interest.
social media, I guess.
Or lack of interest. All right, this is Will Kane filling in for Ryen Russillo. Too late, Rudy. Too late. You had time. Now I got 10 seconds.
It's Embiid.
Embiid, good one. It's Will Kane. I'll be here all week for Ryen Russillo. Right Time with Bomani Jones is up next.